So today we're gonna see, test and explore a new lens that Sony has brought out, the 200-600, which is a very promising bird lens. 200-600 and it's f5.6 to 6.3. So the aperture that pertains to our filming is of course at 600 millimeters, so that's going to be 6.3. Now that's 1.5 stops slower than the traditional 600mm lenses that bird photographers and wildlife photographers in India have been using over the years. Now I started out my bird photography with this massive monster of a Nikon lens, the 600 f4. And this is the AFI Nikon 600mm 1:4D Nikon ED lens. So that's ED, of course, is extra dispersion glass. But this is the traditional f4 manual lens, which allows me to click the aperture stops manually, which the new lenses from Nikon and Canon do not allow you to do because they are automatic, because they are set through the program mode in the camera. So there's no external aperture ring that allows you to set the aperture. It's set through the camera itself. Now this is a wonderful lens, the Nikon. It's old, it's dated, it's heavy, it's about 6.5 kilograms, but it's a wonderfully sharp lens. Even with a bit of fungus in this old lens of mine, it works well. And here I've adapted it with well, lots of rings. I've adapted it with a ring that converts it to Canon FD, well, Canon EF mount. Now FD is the old one, and the EF mount converts it further to a Sony A7S, which allows us to photograph in 4K as video on a Sony camera. So this is the traditional heavy duty 600mm f4 lens from Nikon, which we're now looking to replace, which over the years we've also had this little cheap little alternative, not a bad one really, the 150-600 from Tamron. Sigma has a very similar lens. The Tamron and the Sigma take you up to 600. They're slow, but they're not bad. They're in the sub 1 lakh rupee range, so they're good cheap alternatives. Now this old lens here cost me a good 7 lakhs when we bought it, and this 600 from Tamron is giving us a decent amount of focal length. It's the same 600, but it doesn't give me the same speed. Let's see, what is the speed of this lens? The lens does not have a speed. Okay, it's f5 to 6.3, so it's the same aperture 6.3 that the new Sony lens is giving us. So it's giving us the same aperture f-stop at maximum that the Tamron is giving us, which the Sony is promising to give us. Now let's look at the Sony. I'm going to put aside this Nikon 600 for now, and the one more option as a body is of course the Panasonic GH4, GH5, which you can adapt for micro four third to EOS or Nikon, and that's another great 4K camera that you can use in place of the Sony A7S Mk2 series. Of course you have the Canon 5D, the Mark IV, which gives you 4K as well. And on this tiny little replica lens here, which actually the lens comes off the body and it gets on. It's a wonderful little toy here. It's an exact replica of the Canon 600 f4 lens. Let's get this box open and see what Sony is promising us by way of the new Alpha series 200-600mm, f5.6 at the widest at 200mm, and f6.3 at the longest at 600 millimeters. And this lens is a newly introduced lens which Sony has just brought out to the market. The mark price is 1,69,990, so 1.7 lakhs. We can probably get this for you at under 1.5 lakhs. So if you need this lens, come back to us. It's a lovely little lens. It's been manufactured in December 2019, so it's a new lens just brought to India. All right, so let's see how I'm going to open this now. So let's see how the new Sony 200-400 lens promises to look. That's the case. We'll get to that in a bit. There's manuals here, there's a strap here, and let's see what's in here. There's a warranty card from Sony. Sony warranties the lens for 2 years from the date of purchase. There's the Sony service centers, the service network, and there's the lens. So let's see here. The lens is wrapped nicely with lots of cardboard and bubble wrap around the lens itself, and there you go. That's the new Sony 200-600 lens, which is the newly promised solution for all bird and wildlife photographers in India who do not want to spend the enormous sum of 7 to 8 lakhs for the Canon 600 f4 or 12 to 13 lakhs for the Sony 600 f4. Phenomenal amount of money for just a lens which most people are using for recreational bird and wildlife photography. So no reason to spend that kind of money here. So that's the G series Sony lens. Lovely nice optic in front, and a very nice feature which they seem to have here is that the front is a rubber built-in hood, so you don't scratch the front of the lens. It's not metal, it's rubber. The front ring is rubber, and it's got a nice white finish to it like the Canon lenses. And let's see when you zoom, aha, it doesn't increase in length, so that's great. So 200 to 400, 600, the length of the lens remains the same, which in video lens terms we call internal focus. The lens used to normally zoom out when you zoomed it. Like in the case of the Tamron or the Sigma, you can see when you zoom, the lens actually increases in length. But in this case, it's the equivalent of internal focus in video lenses. So as I'm zooming, the length is not increasing, and it's got a nice clean feel to it. Switch here for manual focus or autofocus. The focusing range from closest 2.4 meters, which is pretty good. 2.4 meters as a minimum focus distance is fabulous for a lens of this focal length, and that takes you to infinity, of course. And it's got optical steady shot, which you can turn on or off from the lens barrel itself, and it's got 3 modes, which I assume are for autofocus. So this is the Sony A7S Mk2, lovely little camera. Sony tells us even the newer versions of the A7 do not improve upon the old A7S Mk2 in terms of 4K filming. So let's stick with that, and let's see, it clicks in. There we go. Okay, so there we go. 200, 600 on the A7S. Nice balance, not a lot of weight there. So it's got a nice feel to it. You can of course take the collar up and get a smoother handheld shot, or put that onto a tripod. It's got a great feel to it. So that's the new one. The 200 to 600 gives you a lovely range. Of course, the lens which is would be a competitor is the Canon 200-400 with the built-in tele extender. This of course doesn't have an extender, which it doesn't need, but it's a promising lens at 1,70,000, which again we can help you get for under 1,50,000. So be in touch if you need this lens. It's out of stock most of the time because there's so much demand for it, but there you go. This is a great little package for filming and field work. A Sony A7S Mk2 for 4K filming or still photography with the 200-600 f6.3 lens. So let's take this out in the field and see how it works.